absolutely right. Alright, this is Governor Jindal. Helicopter just coming in. And just as I was told, that helicopter was much, much stronger. And he's meeting with officials. Martin Trish right there.
I want to thank everybody for coming out. I especially want to thank the residents for coming out and spending some time with us. I'm going to give some updates. I'm going to hear from the police jury, the parish president, and the sheriff, and they'll be happy to take questions. Obviously, we're here to get a first-hand look at the progress that's been made on the sinkhole cleanup, to meet with families, and to get an update on the contingency plan for Oxley 1. Just finished up a meeting with the parish president, the sheriff, area legislators, state agency officials, contractors, and others. I'm going to highlight several items for you on the buyout process, on the Blue Ribbon Commission, some of the other items. First thing I want to do is I want to again thank the residents that took the time to come and voice to me their concerns, their comments, their suggestions. I know this has been a very frustrating process, and I wish there were easy answers. The commitment I gave the residents, I'll repeat publicly, is that we're going to do everything we can to hold Texas Brine accountable to make sure that they clean up the mess that they've caused. But again, I do want to thank the residents for coming out and sharing. They gave us some very good suggestions and ideas which we are going to incorporate into the process, and I'll mention a couple of those as I give you these updates. In terms of the buyout process, last week we announced that Texas Brine did agree to begin the process for residents whose lives have been uprooted. Now, for months we've been pressuring the company to step up to the plate, to do the right thing for our residents. Texas Brine is responsible for the sinkhole. We remain committed to holding them accountable. After months of discussions, after meeting with them last week, the company has finally agreed to start this process. As we noted last week, there was a group of residents who indicated they were interested in talking to Texas Brine about buyouts or settlements. Texas Brine indicated to us they were waiting for a court-ordered list of residents and orders from a federal judge before they could initiate conversations with those residents. Texas Brine received that list on Friday, March 15th. Now that the attorneys have the list, they may approach people without attorneys to talk about settlements, and they can go through the attorneys for those who have already entered in lawsuits. Their decision is certainly a step in the right direction, but the proof is going to be in the results. We're going to continue to push this process so we can hold them accountable. The folks who have been displaced, as I told the company and the residents. It is certainly good that they've contacted, the company reports they've contacted 56 residents and scheduled appointments to meet with them. But we've told them the real proof will actually be in whether residents are actually accepting the offers. So it is certainly good that they've started that process, but the real proof will be in the outcomes and the results in terms of people actually voluntarily agreeing to the offers that are made. One of the suggestions that was made today by the residents, I think it's a very good suggestion, is in addition to an independent appraisal, that there be some kind of review of that appraisal process. And so we're going to be suggesting that to Texas Brine to make sure that these offers are fair, they are independent, and they are objectively verified. So again, I want to thank the residents. The suggestion was that there be an independent review of that process in addition to using that third-party appraiser. And so we are going to be talking and suggesting that and asking that the company include that as part of their process. The second update, we announced the creation of a Blue Ribbon Commission whose mission will be to ensure the long-term safety of our residents. They're going to develop specific criteria to develop long-term safety goals They're going to specifically address 3 areas: the level of shallow gas in the aquifer; secondly, the current and future stability on the western side of the salt dome; third, management and containment of the sinkhole, along with determination of potential void spaces below the sinkhole. To provide benchmarks for recommendations, the Commission will address at least 2 key factors: appropriate conditions to determine sustained public safety and the data needed to assess those conditions. The Commission will make recommendations on what the safety benchmarks should be and when they've been sufficiently met. The membership will be from scientific experts in fields specific to different areas of concern, from federal and state agencies, the academic world, contractors, and others. State officials, DNR will make these appointments after consultation with local officials. Another suggestion we got from the residents was to make sure that there is a representative of the residents on this commission. I think that's a great suggestion, and DNR is going to do that. We're going to make sure that they are represented, so there is transparency in the process, so they do have access to those data and deliberations. I think that was a very good suggestion. The third area about that, in terms of the cleanup, some of these steps overlap with our plan, our contingency plans for Oxy 1, and I'll defer to the locals, but some of the data we heard, currently the sinkhole is approximately 1,000 feet in diameter, 144 feet deep. As many of you know, we're experiencing sloughing over the weekend due to seismic activity, now estimated to be roughly 13 acres in size. Worst case predictions on the size of the sinkhole place it its edge at approximately 1,300 feet southeast of the community, 700 feet south of Highway 70. The sinkhole edge is approximately 1,600 feet southeast of the community and 1,100 feet south of LA Highway 70. Any bubbling around the community is believed to be fed by underground formations releasing gas through pathways created by Oxy 3's ongoing collapse. In terms of response efforts, DOTD is doing daily visual inspections, weekly visual bridge inspections, monthly GPS surveys of LA 70. They're comparing those results to determine any movement of the terrain. We've also made progress with vent wells. 31 observation vent wells have been installed. 21 are currently flaring gas to remove it from the subsurface. 10 of the wells not currently flaring are capable, but are currently shut in for work or safety precautions due to seismic activity near the sinkhole or a lack of gas in the area. 8 additional wells are ready to be drilled once seismic data gathering is completed. To date, more than 10 million cubic feet of natural gas has been flared. This week, no new vent wells will be installed due to the 3D seismic data attainment. DNR estimates conditions will allow for installation next week. These wells will be installed east of the community and south of the highway. A group of wells will be also installed near the community, near the intersection of 70 and 69. Once these are installed, DNR will be able to tell where more wells should be placed to maximize the removal of gas. 24 pressure monitoring geoprobe wells have also been installed to monitor for the presence of gas pressure buildup in the area. 14 of those wells are in the community itself. 75 pairs of methane and hydrogen sulfide continuous monitors have been placed in 33 residential structures. These are integrated into an emergency response system overseen by the parish. To date, no positive alarms have occurred. Where access has been granted by homeowners, homes have been inspected and tested for natural gas and hydrogen sulfide on a regular basis. We're also taking steps to ensure surface water containment. Containment is currently being completed around the sinkhole through the installation of an earthen berm to stop the spread of contaminants onto surface water outside the sinkhole into the surrounding area. The initial berm installation is complete. DNR expects the berm completion work to be finished by late May. Once this berm is completed, it'll be used to access locations for additional vent well installation. To date, a total of 123,488 cubic yards of sand, 3,416 tons of limestone have been imported to construct this containment. In terms of Oxy 1, the contingency plan, something we talked about last week, during work on the sinkhole, DNR was given the data that showed the Oxy 1 cavern was closer to the edge of the salt dome than previous maps had indicated. According to the experts, there's no data to indicate a failure is occurring or imminent. However, we're not taking anything for granted. We've been monitoring the second cavern since late last year. We will have those test results within the next month to better determine its structural integrity and the distance of this cavern from the edge of the salt. But we're not taking anything for granted. We've already put together, and we are putting together a contingency plan to protect lives and property due to the second cavern. I want to give an update on some of this new information. Given the experience with Oxy 3, Oxy 1 has a microseismic array installed into it, allowing 24 hours a day monitoring of seismic activity. A network of microseismic arrays is monitoring the western edge of the dome. DNR is also performing rock mechanics modeling of the cavern. This is an evaluation of the structural composition of the rock to see how it might be impacted by seismic activity. We're currently using 2 different monitoring systems, one for the sinkhole and the Oxy 3 cavern, one specific to Highway 70 and the Oxy 1 cavern. The monitoring system for the sinkhole and the Oxy 3 cavern is geared primarily towards the safety of workers in and around the sinkhole. It's numerically based. The system for Highway 70 and the Oxy 1 cavern is geared towards the public. It's access to Highway 70, and it is color-coded green, yellow, and red. Oxy 3 is on status 2 because of the seismic activity detected last week. That is expected as the remains of the cavern are still shifting. Oxy 1 is on green status. We're also acquiring additional 3D seismic data while we continue ongoing seismic monitoring. The 3D seismic investigation has roughly 94% of the survey work completed, 75% of the drilling work is completed. We expect 3D seismic data collection to be completed by the end of this month. The analysis and results are due to the state by April the 21st. I want to emphasize that's a very important date. That's a very important set of data for determining what we're dealing with and the challenges going forward, and when we can start measuring when it might be safe for people to come back. Seismic activity in this area is also being continuously monitored with 7 surface seismic arrays and 2 subsurface seismic arrays. I want to make it clear, that date, that's when we're going to have that data back. That doesn't mean that's when it's going to be safe, but that is going to be a very, very important set of data to know more about what we're dealing with. One of the subsurface arrays in Oxy 1 will soon be replaced. The pressure of surrounding salt caverns is also continuously monitored, reported on 10-second intervals for any sudden changes which might suggest a change in structural stability in the area. The next area I want to give you an update on is LA-70 monitoring. This is one of the things we talked about last week. DOTD has taken steps to ensure the safety of LA-70 due to its proximity to Oxy 1. DOTD has prepared a 3-part monitoring system. The different types of monitors will bounce data against each other to ensure that abnormalities are not due to the malfunctions of the sensors, wild animals, weather. The data includes 3 parts: automated continuous monitoring of roadway and bridges for movement, automated continuous monitoring of roadway and bridges for subsidence, and third, detection and motorist warning systems. DOTD has already started the installation process. They anticipate this to take 6 to 8 weeks. The first step is for the state to execute right of entry agreements to gain access to the property, to place sensors, to work out arrangements, to have them remain in place for the duration of the project with access for service. And DOTD is working with Texas Brine to place monitors and sensors on DOTD right-of-way property and property already leased by Texas Brine. At this time, DOTD does not anticipate the need for any property in addition to the right-of-way and the property that's already been leased. DOTD will have to perform site preparation work, which will include access, including driveways and security fencing. DOTD prep work could include the installation of cameras to ensure that sensors aren't being tampered with. And I know I've gone over a lot of information, so I want to close first by recapping the 6 next steps. When we met last week, I told you the 3 follow-up steps from that meeting. I want to give you the 6 next steps coming out of this meeting before I turn things over to Marty and to our sheriff. First, we will have 3D seismic data by April 21st. We'll need to analyze that data to determine subsurface conditions, including potential surface sources of the natural gas. That is an incredibly important step. I can't emphasize that enough. Just in layman's terms, I know that it's important we install these vent wells and flare that gas, but it will be important to know the source of that gas, and hopefully the 3D data will give us more information on how much total gas we're dealing with. Secondly, additional vent wells will be installed near the community during the week of March 25th to remove more natural gas from the shallow subsurface. Third, more seismic arrays will be installed over the next 3 weeks to continue monitoring the stability of the western edge of the Napoleonville Salt Dome and all of its caverns. Fourth, the berm containment system for the sinkhole will be completed by the end of May. Fifth, DOTD will be installing a monitoring system on LA-70. They're also completing the feasibility study of rerouting LA-70 north. We talked last week about the fact they're looking both at a bypass as well as moving the entire route north and doing that work simultaneously, the feasibility and the environmental work simultaneously. Sixth, members of the Blue Ribbon Commission will be selected by the end of this week. First meeting will occur no later than the first week of April. We're going to continue to work closely with local officials to monitor the progress of the cleanup and also the contingency plan progress. The last thing I want to say is, again, to congratulate the residents. I know this has been a frustrating experience, and this is a marathon. Our commitment from the state is that we are going to hold Texas Brine accountable. We're going to make sure that they're responsible for cleaning up the mess they have caused. We're going to do everything we can to make sure that they truly make this right. And with that, I'm going to turn things over to the parish president. I'm going to ask Marty to come up, and then the sheriff, and then I'll come back to the podium and be happy to take questions.
First off, I want to start by thanking Governor Jindal. His direct involvement has been instrumental in bringing a lot of this about and bringing Texas Brine, I think, to a point to where hopefully they can meet with the residents and meet the financial demands of the residents of what you've been going through. For those of you that want relocation, we hope the process is fair, we hope the process is just, and we hope you get the financial resources you need to be able to relocate to move on with your lives. But of equal importance is the governor's commitment for those that want to stay, that we are committed and the state is committed to making sure that Texas Brine is held accountable to make sure that the environment is taken care of and that those that want to stay, that their needs are addressed as well. We want to ensure the people of Bayou Corne, the fact that people are relocating and may want to move on with their lives, that it's not going to be an end to the process of remediating all that's taking place here. We want to fight this out to the end. We want our environment, we want our bayous, we want our waterways back where they were before this event occurred. The governor has committed to state agencies and his full support to making sure that happens. We really appreciate that, Governor, and we appreciate your support. We have been fighting this for 7 months now. We have not let up. I know a lot of the residents have been frustrated, and I understand, and we can about imagine the stress that all of you have been under. We want you to understand from the parish level, we've been here since the beginning and we're going to stay here. We're committed to working with you to see that this matter is resolved. We hope Texas Brine comes up and offers fair compensation packages for those residents that want to relocate. And for those of you that are staying, we want you to know we're going to fight it out to the end. It's a long-term process. As one resident said in the meeting, it's a very serious situation, and let's not minimize it. Let's not minimize it. It's a very, very serious situation that we're dealing with. It is unprecedented, an unprecedented event in Assumption Parish. We are all learning as we go as parish officials. We have always stated we're relying upon state support to give us the resources and the technical expertise to address this problem. They're here. Let's see that it's done right. We have one chance of fixing this issue, and let's see that it's done right so that the residents of Assumption Parish and our environment is taken care of. We're here for you, and we're going to fight this out to the end. Thank you.
Thank you, Marty. I too want to thank the governor and his staff for being engaged in this incident. Let me assure you, the governor gets it. He understands this. You got his attention, and he takes this incident serious. He's committed to resources. And understand the state of Louisiana has not been reimbursed $1 in Texas Brine or its insurers. But they're going to stay engaged. You can see it through. They'll make the recovery later. And more importantly, I want to thank the people here at Bayou Corne, Grand Bayou. You've been extremely patient through this process. You've made my job easy. You know, my priority when this incident began is your personal safety and making sure that we protect your property while you're evacuated. And for the most part, it's been without incident. And it's not because we do our job that good, it's because of you the people, who have been very patient and civil through this process. When you feel your pain, we're going to stay with you, we're going to see it through. Just understand, we're here, we're committed, and the governor's going to stay with us, okay? Understand that. He's a little late getting here, and I promise if he ever does that to us again, we're going to make him swim that sinkhole. You know, he may be a little too skinny to run for president, and not too skinny for that 12-foot alligator. So thank you, Governor.
We'll take media questions.
Governor, you mentioned that, the sheriff mentioned that you were a little late to get here. Why the delay? You know, these residents were waiting for 7 months now for you to come and meet with them.
Two things. One, we've been engaged from the very first day. The state agencies have been on the ground. We did emergency orders. I've been involved talking to not only the local and state officials, but also making sure that the company was paying claims and doing what's right. Look, I share with the residents my frustration. Texas Brine has missed many commitments and deadlines they made to the state, and that's one of the reasons we finally just brought everybody to the table last week and came down here and told them enough was enough. We've been told, and they had missed many deadlines, whether it involved the interim payment process or whether it involved earlier commitments about the buyouts. The reality is state agencies have been here from the very first day. The reality is we share the residents' frustration that several times, not only has Texas Brine told them things, they've told us, they've made commitments to us that they haven't kept. And that's one of the reasons last week we finally brought them together with local officials say enough's enough. It's time to offer the buyouts to the residents that want it. I do want to echo something that Marty said, which is the buyouts are certainly voluntary. It's not going to be for everybody. For folks that want it, it should be an option. For folks that don't want it, Texas Brine, this does not absolve them of their responsibility to make it right, to clean up the mess that they have caused. So for those that want the opportunity to have a buyout, they should have that option. For those that want to stay, Texas Brine has an obligation to clean up the mess they've created, and we're going to hold them accountable to make sure they do it.
Governor, over here. I wanted to ask you, most of the folks got notice of this meeting at about 8:30. There are many people in this community who work, and this meeting was at 2, when there's a community meeting at 6. Could you discuss the scheduling thought there and why maybe this didn't happen at a time where more of the working residents could have attended the meeting?
We'll be happy to find ways and opportunities to continue to meet with folks. The important thing is we address their concerns. We put the information up on the local blog. We work with local officials to find a time where we can get everybody together. The important thing is we address the issues, and we're going to continue to do that. We're going to continue to make sure that people are treated well and treated fairly. What we have told Texas Brine again and again is just offering the buyouts isn't enough. The proof is going to be in the results. The proof is going to be whether people voluntarily accept the offers they make. So that's the next step in terms of trying to help people in the short term, is to see what those buyouts look like and see if people actually find them acceptable. We've also said we're moving forward with the contingency plans with the LA 70 monitoring. We're going to continue forward with the other monitoring, the other steps that I outlined before in terms of the 6 next steps. The important thing, David, I think, is that we make the situation right for local residents. Chris?
You've said multiple times that there's been issues with them missing deadlines. How now are you going to make them actually follow through? What is the game plan to make sure that what they say actually happens?
Sure. Well, look, 2 things. One, we've got measurable outcomes in terms of, we've told them, they've told us they've scheduled 56 of these appointments with residents. We've said that's fine. The real proof is going to be in how many people actually voluntarily accept the offers they make. We want to make sure those are fair offers. We want to make sure that those are offers that actually meet the needs of folks that want the opportunity to sell their property or to move. And so the next step, and we've told the company, they're going to be coming back to the table. And I know that, and some of you asked last time about they may dispute some of the legal authorities we have. We don't concede that point at all. We contend we do have the authority to make them come back and do those things, and so we're going to hold their feet to the fire. We're going to hold them accountable. The next step for them to show that they're doing in good faith what they've committed to doing is to make reasonable buyout offers that are acceptable to people in this community. Also, and this is, look, our first priority is making sure that local folks are being treated well by the company. Obviously, we are going to be pushing them to pay our bills as well. They haven't done that. You heard that Marty said they haven't paid $1 yet in terms of what they owe the state, in terms of the millions of dollars we've spent and already billed the company for. The AG is taking the lead in that effort to make sure they actually pay the bills to us and the local government. But the next step will be, now they've scheduled these appointments, now let's see if they're actually making reasonable offers that are acceptable to people that live in the community. That's the most important thing, and we've told them we're going to bring it back to the table.
Future visits here to the community as this plan kind of takes shape and moves forward?
Look, we'll continue. We made commitments with Texas Brine, local officials, and others. We're going to continue. We've been engaged from the very first day. We're going to continue to be engaged, whatever it takes to make sure this gets done right. And that may be additional visits, there may be additional meetings with the company, that we will continue to push forward to make sure this gets done right. The Blue Ribbon Commission is, I think, another very important step forward, and that we're going to have national and international experts to help us to make sure that, and again, I want to reiterate this, the buyouts are a voluntary option for those that want to move. For those that want to stay, Texas Brine has an obligation to make this right. That commission, that Blue Ribbon Commission of Experts, which will include a representative of the community, I think will be a very important step to hold them accountable, to make sure that the folks that want to stay here, the folks that are coming back, they clean up the environmental damage that they've caused.
Governor, did you see the sinkhole, and what did you think?
I did. We had the chance to see the sinkhole. One of the points I made to the company, I know they had to suspend some of the skimming operations. They do the seismic testing. I think it is important that as soon as it's safe for them, they go out there and start skimming some of that material again. You can see a sheen on top of the sinkhole, obviously. You know, Marty said this was unprecedented for Assumption Parish. I don't think this has ever happened anywhere in terms of the failure of a cavern wall, and that's why it is so important that not only they make this right, but also make sure this doesn't happen again. I want to applaud your local legislators. I know Karen and Rick have indicated they'll be bringing legislation in the next session to give Louisiana some of the strongest oversight and regulations in the entire country for cavern operations. So to make sure that every operator, whether it's Texas Brine or another company, is following the strictest, strongest rules in the entire country. We're going to support that legislation. So one of the comments I did make to the company was, as soon as it's safe for them to do so, they do need to get out there and start skimming again, because you do have a sheen, and that likely came from Sunday, you know, the so-called seismic activity or the burp that they noticed subsurface that produced activity from subsurface, you can see a visible sheen on the surface of the water out there.
Governor, do you know what's going to happen with the sinkhole? Is there going to be any attempt to drain it or to get rid of it somehow?
Look, I think that a couple of things in terms of next steps. The first thing we've got to get is that seismic data to understand, to get a better understanding of what's going on down there. The first step it will be in terms of finding out, for example, how much natural gas is down there. How quick, I know they've got some pressure tests, some initial readings, but the first step in terms of before we can get to the cleanup phase for the surface is to make sure the subsurface is stable. And so even as they clear the surface of the sheen and some of the other environmental solvents, they build the berm to contain the contaminants. The real next step in terms of controlling the environmental damage is to get stability in the subsurface. It wouldn't make any sense to fill in the surface if you had subsurface instability, because you could just have future problems again. After they do that, then we'll move to the surface cleaning operations. But be assured, part of their responsibility is to make sure they clean up the mess. That includes the surface mess. But our focus, even as they skim the surface for those contaminants, and we build the berm to contain the contaminants, we've got to get subsurface stability first. And so that's why the seismic testing is so important. That's why the efforts to either fill in the cavern and or vent the gas are so important. We've got to get subsurface stability first.
As far as Texas Line has been postponing the deadline.
Could he give us a chance?
Huh? How confident
You think he's gonna let him?
Let him know you ask him a question, he'll take it. I think they will.
With the statement.
Two things. One, it's trust but verify. We don't take anything at face value, and that's why, for example, even with the buyouts, we want to see a response. Secondly, in terms of making sure that they do what they're going to say, we're not going to just take their word for it. We're going to make sure that through the Blue Ribbon Commission, for example, we're not going to take their assurances that we've got subsurface stability or their assurances that the area is safe. We're going to have experts from the academic world, from the federal government, including the USGS, from our contractors, including CBI and others. We're going to have an independent Blue Ribbon Commission, so we're not going to just take their word for it. We're going to have an independent verification that it is safe, when it is safe for folks to come.
Okay, I got a long-term thing.
Getting a chance today to hear some of the people's stories, some of the residents' stories. What did you get out of that, and what were you hearing from them?
Look, I think the most important thing, and they can certainly speak for themselves, one of the most important things to get is folks are rightfully frustrated. This has been a long time. Obviously, they want, look, folks, they don't want, in the ideal world, they don't want to check from Texas Brine. They want their lives back. They'd much rather this never happened in the first place. They're not looking for anything other than to get their lives back. They live in a very beautiful part of a great state, and I think there's a lot of frustration that this has taken so long. And I wish there were easy answers, and I wish that we could tell them when this was all going to conclude. What we can tell them is that we will hold Texas Brine accountable. We will bring in the best experts to make sure they can have confidence that when it is safe, it will be safe to go back. But I think the overwhelming sentiment from the folks I heard, I think folks were pleased that at least Texas Brine's beginning to offer. Now, they'll see what the actual offers are, but at least they're beginning that process. They thought that was a good step forward. They want to see what the offers are before they can decide whether those are reasonable or not. But I think the overwhelming sense, and I certainly don't blame folks, is frustration. Their lives have been interrupted by something they didn't cause to happen. And they simply want Texas Brine to make it right so this can all be done so they can go back and have the great lives they had before this all started.
When the buyout offers come in and the residents feel they're not just, if the state feels they're not just, what specific steps can and should the state take at that stage?
Well, a couple of things. Look, we'll get there. One of the things we are doing to make sure they offer fair settlements is to make sure there is an independent appraisal process. One of the suggestions we got today, which is a very good one, is that there should be an independent review of that appraisal process. We're going to go back to Texas Brine and make sure that is a part of their process going forward. And so I think it's important that the process is fair, but we have told Texas Brine we're going to judge it based on the results. And if we don't think it's been a fair process, we'll make them do it again. If we don't think that enough people have found their offers to be reasonable, not everybody's going to want an offer, but for folks that are willing and wanting to talk to them, if they don't have enough folks that are willing that decide they accept their offers, obviously that's a sign that the process wasn't fair. So the real proof is not in how they build the process, it will be in the results. And we're going to measure this based on results.
Last question, David. What has the Texas Brine told you about the DOD highway monitoring plan? They agreed to pay for it as you guys proposed?
They've not yet agreed to it. We've told them we're proceeding. We're not going to delay that, and that's why we're already proceeding. And the cost, just so y'all know, the estimated cost has gone up since last week. It's going to be a little over $1 million. Sherry can give you the details on what that involves and what that entails. We're not waiting for it, but we're moving forward. We're going to add that. We've told them, I told them last week, they had a certain number of days to respond. If they didn't, we just add it to what we're going to bill them for. We'll add it to the bill we're submitting to Texas Brine, but we don't think delays at this point are helpful, and so there has to be a sense of urgency. I think it's a very important route, and it's important that folks have the ability to know in real time whether it's safe for them and what impacts are happening to that route from either chasm. So DOTD has already moved forward. We heard from one of the property owners today they'd actually been contacted about accessing their property near the bridge to place those sensors. So it'll take approximately 6 weeks, I think, to get that full.
Has the state submitted a bill to Texas Brine yet?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
They've got a detailed bill.
Yeah, we've submitted multiple, I don't know if it was in one large invoice or multiple invoices, but yes, we have absolutely submitted bills and have not been paid. And again, there was a meeting with the AG yesterday. They requested some additional data so that you know we're using the same process we used with the BP oil spill, same process we used with previous hurricanes for the state to document its expenses and payroll. So this is something we've done before. We're going to get paid, and we're going to continue to submit our bills and pursue those through the AG, but let me be clear, our top priority with them has been to take care of the local residents, and that's why we want them to go ahead and get this bio process started. Our next, I should say, our other top concern is the safety and the stability of this area to make sure they're taking those steps. But yeah, we've already submitted bills to them. We'll continue pursuing those. But regardless of when they pay, they are going to pay. Regardless of when they pay, we're going to continue being aggressive in our efforts. That's not going to slow down. Their lack of payment is not going to, in any shape or form, slow down our response efforts. That's why DOTD is proceeding, and that's why we're continuing with our other efforts as well. We're not going to slow down for Texas Brine schedule. Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys. Thank you.